This episode is brought to you by Americas Rehab Campus. Get on the road to recovery with the best rehab in beautiful Arizona. Dial 1-833-272-7342. That's 1-833-ARC-REHAB.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are now tuned in to the ARCast.
If you wouldn't mind, bro, just try and keep the mic, like, in front of you, okay? And if I do this, then you know that's what it is. All right. So, good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the ARCast. My name is Buddha.
I'm Vance.
And I'm Michaela.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. My buddy came down here all the way from Scottsdale. I'm really excited for you guys to hear his story. He's a very, very strong person. He's a good friend. And he actually got here a little bit early, so we were able to start a little bit early too, which is awesome because I think we're going to need that extra time. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and give a warm round of applause to my good friend and your new friend, Ericko. What's going on, Ericko? Good morning, brother. How are you?
Sir, thank you, everybody. I am good. Just blessed to be here.
Blessed to be here. Amen. Amen. How was the ride down here, sir?
It's, easy, nice and mellow.
Yeah?
No traffic.
I hit traffic.
No traffic.
I hit traffic in Phoenix and Tucson.
Yeah, I was going to say no traffic. That's a first.
That's crazy.
Since I was a kid.
Yeah, no, it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. It's been a long time since you've been here, huh?
It's been a while, man. Yeah, like maybe what? Last time I was here last December with you.
Yeah, but was it last December?
Last December was only a month ago.
Was with not this one. Yeah, the one before that.
Okay.
One. Yeah.
I think it was even before COVID, dude.
No,
It wasn't?
it was last one because it was before Christmas. I remember.
Oh,
like the
okay.
15th or
So
something.
2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. That's crazy. The facility has grown a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's totally different. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
different but the same. Right?
yeah. The energy is still the same. Hopefully, you know what I mean.
It feels good. Yeah.
That's good, man. Well, thank you so much for coming by and sharing your testimony with us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
As you know, and I'm sure you've heard some of the episodes because I've been on you and bugging you like crazy about it. We bring different people in all the time and we talk about, testimonies. And for me, one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you here to come and share your testimony with us is because I know that your story is, we all have similarities in our stories, but your story is similar, but it's also very, very unique at the same point, right? So why don't we get started in that? Where are you from, sir?
So I am, originally, before we start, could I give a quick prayer?
Oh, please,
Yeah.
let's do this.
Let it go. Thank you, Father God, for today and for all the blessings that you give us every day, Father God. And I just pray that you let your wisdom and your words go flow through me, Father God, to reach the people that you want to reach, Lord, to let them see that if you can use me to do anything, what can they not do, Father God? I pray that everything goes the way that you plan it, and in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen, bro.
Okay, so I was born and raised in Juarez, Mexico,
Oh, man.
which is, anybody knows, that's like homicide, number one capital homicide. in the
Murder
world.
capital of the world.
Yeah.
Wow. How long were you there?
I was there, I want to say maybe 7.
Up till 7 years
Yeah,
old?
something like that. But I mean, my childhood was very different in the way of I have cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
So since I was born, it was always finger pointing, like, look at this, look at this. And the sad thing is in like Hispanic, like Mexican culture, they don't care about that. Parents are the ones that are like pointing at their kids. Look at that kid.
Yeah.
So it has always been that kind of life for me.
Man,
Since I can remember.
do you remember, did you ever experience anything like horrifying living down there other than,
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to. The craziest thing to me, like I've seen 2 things, but I mean, like through the years when I go visit my aunt is worse. Like I've had like cartel kill my uncle, my cousin, because of drugs and these things.
Wow, man.
So I mean, my life, my family has been through that. But when I was born over there, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't. It
Yeah.
just got worse as it went by, you know? So the only thing that I remember was years after was like I was walking on the way home to school, and there's a lot of kidnapping over there. And I was like this close to get kidnapped. And I didn't even realize it until like years later.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, because I remember walking and this guy just came by me and he's talking to me like he knows me, like he knows my parents. And he was like, "Oh, hey, mijo, let's go." I was like, "Oh, yeah." Only because my house was right there. I was like, "I live right there." He just took a right, and just took off.
Wow.
And I blocked that from my head for years.
He was trying to kidnap you?
That's the conclusion that came to my head like years after. Because I remember that specific thing.
What was he asking you?
He was just like, "Hey, who's your dad? Where's your dad? Like, what do they do?" And like he's like, "I know your dad." He's like, "But where does he work again?"
So he was trying to protect himself.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean,
scary, dude.
Yeah, and it was nuts. It was just because I said, "Oh, my house is right there." The dude just took a right, and then I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, because criminals try to protect themselves.
Yeah.
So they lie to the one they're getting ready to do something against.
Yeah, I mean, so
Man.
I mean that happens, and I felt like, okay, well, now that you look at the big picture, you're like, okay, well, God's taking care of this.
Yes.
But you still go through something, and then at the end of the day, a family member I got sexually abused.
Oh wow.
So when that happens, my dad finds out, and instead of saying nothing, he beats me.
This is in Juarez still?
Yeah, yeah. So it's like you say, what do you do to that? What do you do with that? As a child, you don't know what to do.
So you're the one that were punished for being sexually molested?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
man. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, hey, the thing is like now, like you look at it and it's like, it's just meant to be this kind of life for the purpose you have in your life.
Yeah.
That's how I see it now.
Do you have any siblings?
I have a brother.
You have a brother?
Yeah, my brother. But you know what I mean?
Did your brother ever experience anything like that or?
No, it's just me.
Yeah.
How old are you, brother?
Me right now, I'm 42.
And how old were you when that happened to you?
I was probably like 6 or 7.
Because you just brought back to memory 2 of my own kids here in Tucson, Arizona, when I was in the NFL, actually were being sexually molested by their mother's boyfriends and their husbands. Man.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man, that so many kids have to go through that.
Yeah, I mean, so that was that. But I mean, everything was just always pain of always everybody looking at you like you're different, you're wrong, you're this, you don't fit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's this corrupt world we live in.
Yeah,
It's
I
been
mean,
like that
like I
since the
said.
beginning of time.
And how was the relation? Like, how was the if you don't mind me asking, the relationship like with your mom when she found out?
My mom didn't know till years later, man. Like years later. Like,
Oh, really?
I'm talking about like we were over here and I was like in high school and I started talking about these things because I was like I felt so much
Yeah.
like rage and anger because of all these things that had been through my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a question. So how did, if that happened when you were 6, how did mom not hear about it? You didn't tell her? Or you were told not to tell her?
No, it's just because I'm a kid, right? And my dad is the one that found out he beat me. My mom, for some reason, was not in the house. And when I told her, she's like, I don't know. And then that was the end of that. Because, like Latino families, us was like, you don't talk about any of this. You don't do any of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. You know what I mean? Sweep it under the rug. That's
Right.
what
Yeah.
you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's no mess if it's under the rug. That's crazy. That a lot of families are like that too,
Yeah.
man. So after that happened, is that what made you guys move to the United States?
No. It was just, we moved just because like my grandfather, he was in the Army
Okay.
or the Marines. I don't remember. But he's the one with my grandma, he fixed her and then they fixed our papers to come over. That's the way we came this way.
Okay.
So.
Well, thanks for proving people can come to America. They just have to come legally.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man. And
Yeah.
so did you do all of your academics and stuff here?
No, I did I wasn't till 4th grade in Mexico, beginning of 5th grade. And then they moved me to El Paso.
Oh man.
And then El Paso is no ESL, no nothing. They're just boom, there you go.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm learning English from Sesame Street. And my teacher was she was just
Yeah.
giving me whatever attitude just because of I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But
How did the kids treat you at school when you came over to Texas?
it's the same, man. It's always always an outcast just because
Yeah.
people they see something different. And kids are ruthless.
Yeah, they are.
They're just straight up boom. You know what I mean? They don't care for your feelings for nothing.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
What did was what listening to this stand-up comedian John Mulaney? He's like, kids are so brutal. He's like, they'll point out things that you hate about yourself. He said that this kid was telling him that he had feminine hips, and he was like, "Oh my god, that hurts so bad." Trying to say that to me.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's how it was. And you can laugh about it now.
Yeah,
But at that time, it was just a bunch of bitterness and anger because it's like
yeah,
it came to the point that even teachers, because I had
Really?
a teacher. Yeah, I mean, I probably might jump up and down like a little bit, but I had a teacher in 7th grade. As a teacher, as a math teacher, and I tried very hard to understand these things, and I'm like, whatever, and I just couldn't do it. And then she even said, like, a person, like another girl, to teach me, to show me, and then like not 2 minutes later, she's like, don't even waste your time on him. He's worthless. He's pointless.
Mm.
And for me to hear that, I was like,
Yeah, that's.
Dang.
I mean,
that
and,
is not-
and then it goes back to all my life, always negativity, like always pointing, always this.
Mhm.
I mean, I can't.
wow,
It's so much that I blocked a lot of that stuff for years, like years.
Yeah, well, and that's just as a teacher. Teachers are there to encourage, to help, to teach, teach children, and I feel like teachers also like are there to kind of protect the innocence of a child a little bit. Like, so
Yeah.
to do that, that's like the total opposite. And I've had experiences with teachers, nothing like that, but it's hard when your teachers don't believe in you. You're like, well, why am I even trying then?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I forgot to mention, like I said, I, as a kid, like even going in church, because I was raised in a Christian home,
yeah,
Mhm.
My mom, when I was born, she changed her life and she was like this. And I remember going to church and I was already like, I got so great. Why would he make me like this? Why would I not have
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And so all I would do is just draw when I was at church. My mom was like, here. So I would just sit there and draw. And I've done that all my life to cope with a lot of things.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And that's how I became like an artist and a digital content creator and all these things.
yeah,
And I use my art to draw like the feelings that I felt at the time when I go speak. I remember drawing these drawings, and I'm gonna show you here and there. Tears would come down my cheeks just because I was like, man, why does it still hurt if I already talk about it, I deal with it, but I was still letting more of it out,
yeah,
Mhm.
slip off with these drawings. And I was like, I couldn't understand it.
yeah.
I mean, it'll be like this one where I drew this and it was just, I wrote everything that people would
Oh my god.
call me
Wow.
and say.
For me, I see that, and I think of somebody in the fetal position being broken.
That's basically what I was trying to put. Yeah, I mean, and,
You know,
and because of those things, so I would have this rage, and I would try to put it.
Oh,
in
wow.
my eye. You know what I mean? Where it's like,
Yeah.
like that's how I felt inside. I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to feel.
oh man.
Like it's just.
Do you mind if we share these with the
Oh
listeners?
no, man! I'll give you all this. That's fine.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Oh man, it's beautiful. It's an eye, and then
Yeah.
the iris is somebody in pain. Wow, that's nuts. Yeah,
Ever
dude.
since I was young like you, I was an
Yeah,
artist.
that's
Wow.
awesome, bro.
Interesting,
That's
man.
good. I have to check out your
You
work.
literally brought that back to memory.
That's awesome, though.
Let's
See,
keep
there you
going.
go.
Let's
There you
keep
go.
going. And I was also in church and just drawing like you.
See, there you go. That's similarities. That's awesome. I love it.
That's cool, man. So your mom is who brought you to the faith. That's who introduced you to it.
Yeah, yeah.
So how was it growing up, like academically? I know, growing up when you're young, the younger kids can be very ruthless. But as you continued in your academics, middle school, high school, where people are starting to be more understanding and more getting into themselves, were you still dealing with that scrutiny? I guess
I dealt with this anger and people always picking, because the older you get, the more people feel like they have to make an example of something.
Mhm.
really,
It's just that way it was with me in my age,
yeah,
my time. Yeah, I'm at the same time, kind of like you.
yeah,
Where you have all these people that are trying to be gangster and all these things because of Dr. Dre and all these things and blah blah blah. That's
Oh,
my
yeah.
time. So everybody and their mother trying to be like, I'm some kind of gangster. You know
That's
what I
what's
mean?
up, fool. That's what's up. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, like middle school. Middle school is when mentally I had enough. So even though I was born with cerebral palsy, like since I was a kid, I always pushed myself. I always was like, no, because I always got picked on and all these things. So I was always like, how can I feel better? How can I walk better? How can I do this? How can I do that? And I was always pushing myself. So like, if they can do this, why can't I do that?
Yeah,
That's how I always looked at it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
In middle school, it got to a point where even my brother was helping me, and I would sit on the floor. This is how far I would go, and put like the 45 plates.
Mm-hmm.
And I would put them straight on my legs so it'll stretch my legs out. And I would put like 4 or 5 and stack them. And it was a horrible pain.
Really?
In my head, I
Wow.
was like stretching my nerves and stretching my bones. It's
Yeah.
making this stuff like straight.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I was very movable back then, not like I am today. Because I mean, as the ages, years go, cerebral palsy just starts.
Deteriorating.
Yeah,
things.
I mean, bones and muscles.
Man.
Which I have this other thing that's called muscleplegia, which is the weakness of the muscles. So your
Okay.
muscles will shrink faster than like a regular person. You know what I mean? So if I don't do nothing, so if I work out, I have to keep working out, else it'll go away.
So you started getting, so like with high school and stuff, did you try doing like bodybuilding, things like that?
So I would say middle school, that's when the wrestling thing bit me. Like, cause I was like, I could do this. This is strength. And
Yeah.
I always had like upper body strength,
Uh-huh.
like legs not so much, but upper body strength. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna do this. And that's when I was like letting my rage, just from all these years just come out and things like that. And it got to a point where I figured out that if some guy comes at me and tries to make an example for me to make them feel better, I'm just going to make an example of this dude, and everybody
Yeah.
is going to leave me alone. But it was to the point of when I do that, it was not like, I'm just going to beat you up. It's like, I'm trying to kill you, because all this rage would come out.
Yeah.
And all the like teachers would be like this. They would call my mother, and then they'll be like, your kid's insane. Your kid's a monster. Because they're like trying to get 3-4 people off of me, because once I would go, it's like all this
Wow.
will go. You know what I mean? But I did get that point where I just did that to that one kid. And
So there was a situation that
yeah, I've had many because of the situation of it.
Well, it's almost. It sounds to me like it was almost your way of coping. Like you've been pushed to the edge for your whole life up at that point. At some point, enough is enough, and it's just you don't have the capacity to hold it in anymore.
Yeah. So I could tell you a story of the first time that happened.
Uh-huh.
So I was in 6th grade, and there was this kid, the kid that everybody picks on. He decided to pick on me. So we were in a lunch line and everything, and this kid was just like picking on me, and I just turned around, grabbed him, choked him, put him against the wall, and all this anger just came out. I had like 3 lunch ladies trying to, and they were like, this kid's insane.
Yeah.
But I was like, who is this kid trying to,
Yeah.
that was enough for me, and then it went to like middle school where it was always like, I just have to get the first guy that comes in and just beat him, and
Yeah.
they'll be left alone.
Yeah.
I mean, that I'd rather have people be like, that dude's freaking nuts. Don't talk to him.
Yeah.
And
Got to set that dominance in the yard.
Protecting yourself.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, for sure. And how sad to think too, like that bullier, the one who was bullying, who got bullied became the bullier. You know what I mean? That's what happens.
Yeah.
Hurt people hurt people. Weren't you the one that said that last
Yep.
time?
Hurt people. And that is very common because it's almost as if it's a learned behavior. Like that's the only behavior that they're receiving. So in return, that's the only thing they know how to give is to bully back instead of, meeting people with love. But bullying is a problem.
Yeah.
I was bullied. I have talked through kids that have been bullied now. And all it does is hurt the person.
Yeah.
It does. I remember 2-3 years ago when they were like, oh, the teachers and everybody's like, oh, stop the bullying, and they're actually caring. I got mad. I was like, where the hell was that crap when I was young?
Yep.
Why does everyone care
because-
now?
Why everybody care now when I'm not there? It's not right. It ain't fair.
Well, especially when you're the one that was bullied. It's hard to see people finally taking a stand. Where before it was just like, nah, well, he's just a bully. He's just a bully, honey. Don't worry, But it's like there is a responsibility to parents to teach their children right from wrong. And if you allow your child to be a bully, you have the breeding ground for more bullies.
Yeah, totally.
So.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, and that's what I would draw, like these things where at the time, I really felt like just broken and I feel this anger, and then I feel so sad and alone and separate from everybody.
Yeah.
Because at the time growing up too, cerebral palsy wasn't like such a common thing to talk about.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Did you know anyone who had it?
No, that's what I'm saying. Even to the day, dude, it's like it's hard to really see people that you see that have the thing that you have.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's not, it's out there more, but
It's rare still.
One of my
rare.
good friends has cerebral palsy, and that was how I learned about it because I met her later in life, and and she has the most pure heart, but she's shared so many things that have happened to her because of this, label that's been put on her. And she's like, I have a disease, but that doesn't change me being human. And it's like, it's true, because I mean, like, I have a disease, but you can't see mine. You can't see what my autoimmune is. People don't understand it. So it doesn't put that label on me in the same way that when it's something that affects your body physically.
Yes, exactly right.
So you found when you were doing like the working out, like with the wrestling and stuff, did you find a lot of peace in pushing your body? Were you able to do a lot of stuff?
I was pushing my body, yeah, because I mean, it was just like I always start when I speak, and I always say is like, you gotta understand, like, number one, cerebral palsy is basically brain damage. That's what it is.
Okay.
I mean, because it's like it affects your brain and all your nerves, and it depends to the extent.
Okay.
To everybody else, you know what I mean? But it is some form of brain damage.
Yeah.
And my point to say is, like, you don't understand that when you're young, but you do understand that your brain is a muscle and you can train it to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I learned that, but at the time I was like, it's just sweet, but it's like I want to be this, I want to be something more than like a regular person, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm curious to know where like the addiction started to play. Were you using at all, like in school? Did you ever dabble?
So I got to a point where when I got to high school, I was already in a gang. I was already with my buddies in, ghetto, Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had moved to Scottsdale to higher. That's when I was going to high school, but I still stayed over here with the friends and other stuff. So I would go to high school and I would take an ounce of weed in my jeans because they're like, they're never going to say me.
Oh, dang.
The same with me?
Yeah.
They're not going to look at it. So I would go and I would sell it at high school.
Oh, wow.
Like nothing, because I was like, they're not going to say nothing. So I was selling it. I did everything, every drug except for heroin. But I was doing it just because I was just so mentally disturbed.
Yeah.
That it was like, I'm just, okay, well, God did this and this, so I'm just going to do whatever I want. And I would block all these thoughts and stuff like that. But, by the grace of God, I never got addicted to anything of that.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And I was in the news twice.
Okay.
Right? I was in the news once for getting jumped by a Horizon High School, by a high school in
I went to Horizon.
yeah, I have to say.
Was it Michaela? Did she jump?
It was at a big party, man. I don't know. She might remember it. I mean, how old are you?
Yeah, I'm 29.
Yeah, no. But it was a big party. It was in the news, the newspapers and everything. And it was like, the story of it is like insane. You know what I mean? It's like, I went there because my buddy went to that school. So he's like, oh, they're going to throw a party. And I was like, people already knew me. I was like, oh, that's the dealer. That guy sells, that guy does. So I went to the party. I had all my, my weed and stuff like that. And I was just hanging out with a bunch of people and smoking. And there was this guy that came to me and he was like, hey, this guy wants to fight you. And I was like, I don't care. And I just kept smoking. And then they would come again. Hey, this guy wants to fight you. And I was like, okay. And I was like being a stupid person at the time. I was like, let me just handle this and I'll come back. So I went. And once I went and saw the guy and everything, I saw that it was all a setup. Because in the house that I was at, it's a huge house. They had like a basketball court, a tennis court, like a huge backyard.
Wow.
Right? So then the next thing I knew is like, it's me and my friend. And it was like the whole party was in a circle, half a circle against the wall. So they turn off the lights, start like throwing beer cans that are still full. And there was a guy that I guess decided to be the one guy to throw the first punch. And that guy threw the punch, and then I moved out of the way, and I jumped on him, and I was trying to punch him. And as soon as I went down and punched him, I was like, stupid. Then the whole party just came, and I was getting kicked. And that's, if you see the dents here, those are from the boots and all that.
Wow.
Right here in the cut, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got kicked many times. I was holding this guy as a cover. But at the same time, I was like the rage, and I was choking him. And I remember just something popped, and then he let go. And I was still using him as a cover, and I just started seeing white spots every time I got kicked. Boom, boom, boom. Then I passed out. And then I remember waking up, and there was these two girls. They're like, hey, they're, your friend. They're beating up your friend. And they carried him. They had him up, and they threw him down. And when I was trying to walk over there, I got a bottle cracked on my head, and that's how I got this big scar.
Man.
So I pass out again. I wake up, and I'm like held against the basketball pole, like the hoop and the pole, like the metal poles back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the guy that started everything was right in front of me. And I was like, I'm trying to move and everything, but I was so tired and exhausted that I couldn't. And then that guy was saying stuff, and I don't remember what it was, but he just kept slamming my face on the pole. Passed out, woke up, in the back of the car, and I'm like, I don't know what day it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know nothing. You know what I mean? And I'm like looking at my friend's buddy, and he was all nice and clean cut. I was like, I guess we're going somewhere. I was like, that's cool. You know, we're gonna ride or whatever. Then I look at my friend. He has this huge cut too, and I was like, dude, what the hell is wrong? What's going on? You got a cut? He's like, what are you talking about, bro? I was like, look at yourself. He's like, look at your hand. All my fingers were broken. I mean, like I had blonde hair at the time with like this freaking, you know, the little red to like the cholas would do. Yeah. My hair was just bright red, you know, lips busted and everything. So I went home and dumb me was like, I'm gonna take a shower, which you're not supposed to. You know, concussions and stuff like that. Uh-huh. And I remember just, you know, getting out of there, and then my mom was like, what the hell is wrong? Because she was right at the door, like taking a shower at 3 a.m. And it's like, it doesn't work in high school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So you said you were in the news for that?
Yeah.
And did you go to the hospital at any point, or?
No, I just did it because I was like, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I had drugs and all this stuff, and then that guy, whatever happened to him, and then the cops came to me and they were like, yeah, you know, the guy's really hurt. We don't know if he's going to press charges or anything or whatever. And I'm just like, okay, you know, whatever. And I remember I was very angry and still my rage that I went and I would go to the guys to the school, and I don't know how the school knew that I was going, and I was with the homies, with the lowriders and others. You know what I mean? And I tell you this just because later it'll make sense too.
Yeah.
And the cops were there, whatever. So I found out what he worked, and I went to his work, and I was like, dude, don't you walk out of here. He's like, you know, everything you did is like, you're done. And there's all this anger. And, you know, call the cops again. And then 2 weeks after that, I was going already to a charter school. So I had already dropped out of school.
Okay. So
I was going to a charter school. And 2 weeks after that, there's like a charter school where you go either in the morning or in the afternoon for school, right? And then I had met this girl there. And she went to school in the morning that time. And she was like, oh, I have to stay here till after for her brother picking. And my house is like 2 blocks away. So I was like, you know, you can come and hang out at my house. And then, you know, whenever your time is come back, right? And then my buddy from my buddy calls me. He's like, yo, man, we got like this huge bottle of tequila. And we got this and that. He's like, our homie's going to go swoop you up. And I was like, okay. So I told her. I was like, you know what? I was like, my buddy's coming. We can give you a ride or you could come with. Mm-hmm. She said, no, I'll go with you guys. I was like, okay, you know, let's go. So she comes with, we go, you get like super drunk and all this stuff. So it's me and you know, my 2 buddies and her. And his parents wouldn't care what we did because they were like, it's in the ghetto, it's all this stuff. Yeah. But it was, you know, my buddy was like, dude, 3 dudes and a girl, it doesn't fly with nobody. Yeah. Right? So I was like, well, I'm too drunk, I ain't going nowhere. And she was like, let me call my sister. She called her sister, and then as soon as she called her sister, like, you know, like everything hit her. So she was really drunk. She just started mumbling. So I grabbed the phone and I was like, hey, your sister's here. She's like really drunk, you know, come and pick her up or whatever. She's like passing my sister. So I passed her the phone back, and then she hangs it up. She's like, no, take me to my cousin's. I was like, I ain't going nowhere. She leaves with my friend. I was like, that's not my business. I'm just here to, you know, have fun, whatever. Homeboy comes back half an hour later, and he's like, oh, she threw up all over the truck, and I had to clean it up and other stuff. And then we took her into the house, and then she would tell me specifically, don't let me go. Don't leave me alone. Don't leave me alone. Yeah. So I felt like this
conviction.
Yeah, man, where I was like, I have to. So then even though we're leaving, and he's like, you guys gotta go. So I was like, all right, man. I know he's drunk, and I'm like not right and all this. So we're driving down the freeway, and we got off, and it was this road where there's construction. You have all the signs and stuff. And when we turned, he hit one. So we had a cop behind us. So then I'm like, oh, dude, I was like, pull over, bro. You know what I mean? He's like, I can't do that. He's like, dude, I was like, I have 3 warrants. Truck is stolen.
Wow.
And I was like, in my head, I was still like, you know, bro, pull over, drop me off, keep going. But he's like, no. So we ended up in a chase. That was the second time on the news.
Jeez.
I had a helicopter on us and everything, you know? And we get to an intersection, and he couldn't stop in time, so we hit a van. So it was hit on my side first.
Oh, man.
My reaction was just to hug the girl for whatever reason at the time. So I was like, oh, she has a seatbelt. So as soon as I got hit, I just held her. And then this is where I tell people, it's like, it felt like 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 a movie, like slow motion, where I'm looking at her, I can't breathe, and like my help mine just for whatever reason, but I'm holding her. She's like bleeding from her eye, her nose, and then I look at my homeboy, and he looks at the rearview mirror, and he just takes off running. So I'm still like, what the hell is going on? It was so fast, right? And then I'm like looking at her, looking at the whole situation. So I look at the mirror, and then the cop car just like nicked him, and he went over the hood. Poof.
He hit him?
Like barely. It was to me, it looked like it was barely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I couldn't tell you. But I was just like, what the? Is this like for real? In my head, I was like, am I really watching this stuff?
Yeah.
And I look at her again, and then I turn around, and then I had like four cops with their guns. They're like, hey, raise your hands up, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, I don't want to move her. I don't know if she's hurt. They're like, yeah, we don't care, like blah, blah, blah. And they tried to open the door and they couldn't. So they broke the rest of the window, and then they dragged me down. They threw me down, put handcuffs. And in my head, I was still like, is she okay? Is she okay? Is she okay? Right? They put me, have handcuffs. They put me against the cop car, and I'm looking at the whole picture of it. And I see her, getting put in the gurney, and they're putting her in an ambulance. And then homeboy, like they were using the, what do you call it? Because I guess his heart stopped beating.
Your friend?
Yeah.
The one that got hit?
Yeah.
The
what is it, defibrillator, I think?
yeah,
Yeah, right?
defibrillator,
So they're using that on him. I'm looking at the truck.
What about the third friend? The other guy?
No, he stayed home.
Okay.
Okay, so it was just us because it was a truck.
Yeah.
Right? And then I look at the truck, and the tire's almost on top of the hood, and it was like my door was like this, and everybody's like this, and all I came out was like a bruise on my leg. That's just God putting his hand there.
Yeah.
So they're like, we're going to take you to the hospital and we'll question you there. And I was like, that's cool. In my head, I was still like, this is a hell of a story. Can't wait till I tell them because I didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
Go back with my buddy and drink and be like, we'll laugh about it. Or we'll be like, this is insane.
Yeah.
Right? That's how stupid I was at the time. You know what I mean? So I go, they question me. I tell them everything exactly how it happened. And then they go back. They're like, okay. So then this cop lady comes back and she's like, hey, tell me what the F really happened. And I was like, I just told your friends, whatever. She's like, no. She just woke up and she said that you kidnapped her from school. You forced her to drink and then you raped her. They're like, because of this, you go to jail. You go to prison. It's like second-degree felony. Right? And I was so angry that I was like, screw it. Doesn't matter. And I still walking out, and I had her sister telling me what I'm going to die of, how horrible I am. It's like, look at you, crippled, trying to take advantage of a woman. All these things. So I'm not, like, to me, like, life is pointless. I hate it. It's nothing. Right? I go, you go to, like, here, like, they call it, what was it? They call it the horseshoe, now they call it, like, the Matrix, where they take you around the cells before you go and talk to the judge, and the judge tells you what your bail is and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. Right? So then I did that, and then when I went to talk to the judge was like, he looked at the whole thing, and he was like, yeah, no. He's like, we're sending you to, like, you're not going to go to, like, a regular little jail. You're like, we're sending you to Durango, which is like a prison. And I was like, okay. They're like, we're going to send you there, and your bail is like a quarter of $1,000,000. And again, I was like, whatever, it doesn't matter. But once I got to prison, it was like I tell people, I don't care who you are. I don't care how tough you are, how tough you think you are. It's really going to test you. It's going to make you cry. You're going to see, you're going to cry, And I remember going there, and my friend's sister, the guy that stayed home, she had her boyfriend, and he was in the same spot. But like, it's like the right there's a huge warehouse, and then in each corner there's different big cells, and they have you in the middle, and you have all your clothes and everything, your covers. And that guy was like, "Hey," he's like, "Send them to our block," like, "That's my cousin." And the cop was like, "This ain't no effing family reunion." So they put me in the worst cell because of that. And even the cops themselves were calling me like, "Look at you, crippled ass, taking advantage of women. You're going to learn today. You're going to learn."
Wow.
So I still have that even there. And I'm like, everywhere I was going in my life, it was always things like that. It wasn't until that night right there is when I was like, oh God, I am so tired. I'm tired of everything. I'm tired of all this anger. I'm tired of like just life, period. Like it's like everything that I try to do, it doesn't work. There's nothing but pain and anger. You know, I'm giving it all to you. You take care of it. It is like I am just done completely.
So when you say you take care of it, does that mean you?
Yeah, I was like, I'm letting you in my life. Father God, take you.
I'll let you finish.
Yeah, letting you in. Wash me with your blood. Give me that Holy Spirit, Father God. You know what I mean? All
Did
those.
you do that without repenting, and did you repent?
No, I was repenting. Yeah,
Okay.
no, I was repenting.
When I'm listening, I'm always
yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
where's
No,
repentance
no,
coming
good.
in?
Yeah, no, I was. You know what I mean? Totally. I did.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I did the whole thing, and I was
Some people, real quick, because some people use God just as a slot machine and say, just
No.
take it away from me, rather than saying, Lord, I'm sorry.
Or let's see what God wants to do.
Right.
Yeah, without doing anything.
Thanks for that. Okay.
Yeah, no, completely. You know what I mean? Like I always knew what to do that because I grew up in that, but I was always like, no.
Yeah.
It's me. It's what I can do, what I do.
That was me.
You know what I mean? And it wasn't until that I repented. And I was like, no. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? God, take control.
And that's just what Jesus said when he started his ministry, to tell everyone to repent, for the kingdom of God is at hand. It didn't say, just say, use me as a slot machine and just say you believe and you get to go to heaven.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Awesome.
So it was that. And then the next day, this is where it's like a funny stories, but I mean, at the time, like, not to me, they're funny, but maybe at the time they weren't. But I woke up and then they never gave me the slippers that I was supposed to have. So I was just walking around with socks. Mm-hmm. And I woke up and there was this guy that came to me and he was like, hey, he's like, yo, you need some slippers, right? And I was like, well, yeah. I was like, but I mean, I know how prison works. It's like, I'm not about to do no favors, because I'm just like trying to.
Yeah.
And he was like, calm down, bro. He's like, because if I wanted to take it, I would take it. So I was like, okay. He's like, I'm just trying to be nice. I'm like, okay, I'm just, I don't know the rules that whatever. But the cool thing about that even there, God takes care of you, is he's put me in the cell with like the main dude of the Mexicans there. So, it's like every.
Separated by race.
Yes. You know what I mean? So you got the Mexicans, which is sad because you have, white people, the African Americans, and then you have Mexicans. And then the Mexicans, we still divide ourselves. You had the Mexicans, and you had like the illegal Mexicans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was set up with him and his right-hand guy, and like they were showing me like, this is what you do, this is how you go. This is where this is if things go down. The things right here. You know what I mean? So protection, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this sounds freaking insane. But I'm like, okay, this is what it is. And the guy, his right hand guy, he always carried his little Bible. So that he was like, oh, you could use it wherever you want. So I would just grab it and I would read, and it gave me like the strength in this stuff. Like, like to be like, okay, I'm like, God's showing me things. I remember there was a guy that was leaving, and right there they give you like this cardboard box. And that's where you put your toothbrush and your little things like that. But it's like a white cardboard box.
Yeah.
And the guy was leaving, and he was like, I didn't know. I never talked to the guy before or anything. And the guy just looked at me. He was like, here you go. And he gave me like his pencils and his paper. I was like, that's just another God, because he didn't know me for nothing.
To draw.
Yeah. So I was just like, okay. And I started to draw. And at the time in prison, it was like, it's either like cigarettes.
Yeah.
Or like these little Kool-Aid barrels.
Yeah.
Those were like the big money thing. So there, even like toilet paper, you had to fight for toilet paper because everybody will go grab it and then they'll trade you stuff for it.
Yeah.
So it was like a bunch of stuff like that. But because that guy gave me that, I never had to deal with any of that.
And if you don't mind me, I just have a couple of questions. Things that came into my mind, like for one, like with the situation with that female that you went through. I know you said that, the buddy that you were with took her when she was really drunk too. Did you ever have an opportunity to make peace with that situation or with anyone in that family or anything like that? And then my second question was like, I know how when you go to prison, like a lot of the inmates know about your history before you even show up. Like they know who you are. Did they treat you a different way when you came in? Or
when I came in, they were. I mean, it was like code. Don't you sleep? We know whatever. But that's why I say. That's why I tell people, you can cry, man, because you'll be like, yeah, all these people.
Yeah. And
like they put me in a cell with like murderers and all these things, and I was like, this isn't pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So you're always walking like with a guard up, you know what I mean? And the thing with her, I never got to talk to her or anything. I talked to like my buddy, the guy that was driving. Before I went into prison, because we were both they put us in the same cell. And I was like, dude, what happened? That's the first time I got to talk to him after all this, after the whole crash and everything. And I was like asking him because I was like, dude, what did you do any of that? You know what I mean? And I never got like a straight answer, but the guy ended up getting like 10 years because of other stuff. So I never got to talk to him again.
Never.
I talked to my friend after for a couple of years, but he was like, oh, they're living somewhere else. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't want.
Wow.
You know what I mean? But so I just started to draw, and I would draw all these a bunch of angels. You know what I mean? And then people were coming. They're like, oh man, I'll give you my lunch or this, because they'd send the letters to their wives, girlfriends, whatever, and they would always want a drawing. So that's why I never had to deal with like, oh, I don't have toilet paper, I don't have food, I don't have this.
You found your toilet paper.
Yeah, like I was just
like
I never had to fight for anything, which was like beautiful how God just does those things even when you don't ask.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I remember one of the instances is like the main dude for the African American people, like the main guy, huge dude, like freaking wide, 3 big old fat braids, and he was just walking towards me, and I'm just drawing, and I'm freaking out. He's like walking slowly towards me, and I was like, oh my God, this dude. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if I have to stand my ground, I mean, he's going to beat the crap out of me, but
Yeah.
I have to stand my ground. And he walked, and he got close to my table, and he just stood there. And I'm like, oh my God. So I look up, and I was like, what's up? And then he just sat down. He's like, can you make me a drawing? I was like, oh my
Oh, really? That's cool.
But I was like, at the time, because he just looked so mean coming in, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, dude, no way.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So at the time, this is happening, and I was in there for like a month and a half. And I remember the first time that, this is an amazing story too, inside, where God was just putting his hand there.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, they're like, Diaz, visitors. I was like, okay. So they're like, oh, you got 3 visits today. He's like, lucky man, right? And I'm like, okay. And I remember going, and the first people I saw was like my brother and my dad, because my mom, she's like, my mom could not make it. She was like, she couldn't see me in prison. So that hurt a lot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was like, it's, now you look at it like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I remember after the visit, they put you in a little room. They strip you down, and you have to squat and spread.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do this for 2 more meetings, bro, because it's everybody there, and they're checking you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I went back, and they're like, oh, you're going to come back for another one. And then when I went back to the other one, and I would go into the same little room, there's a different cop, and there was like, everybody strip, squat, except for you. And I was like, okay. Then I left, came back, had my last one with like the girlfriend at the time, and there's a different cop. And it's like, everybody strip down and squat, except for you. If I was a different person, you know what I mean, I could have used that as an advantage, but I was like, you're looking at it like, whoa, you know what I mean? That's something they shouldn't even do that, but for, God's grace and his hand on the spot. It's like, that's what it was, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I would call my parents and everything, and I would tell them, don't pay, because they were trying so hard to figure out and get the money and all this stuff. And I would tell them, don't pay, the whatever it is that you have to pay, the bill. And they were like, no, we're trying to. I was like, I'm telling you, don't pay. God's doing things. And at the end of the day, like, they still paid it a day before I had to go to court. You know what I mean? And they were like, you're out. And I remember at this time, man, it was a lot of like, felt like high school, which is so weird to say that in prison. Because everybody was like talking to each other, just joking around, playing. And it didn't feel like there was issues. Yeah. Like, and I like when I came in. You know what I mean? And everybody was hanging out in our cell before, like, so when they go lights out, like, you could still walk around in that big place. And then we would hang out in the cell, and I had all the candy and juice, and I was like, oh, man, take it all, whatever. And everybody wanted the box that I made, because it was like that box, and I just drew all these angels and stuff, and everybody was trying to get like, oh, what do you want for that? I'll give you this, I'll give you that. And I was like, no. I gave it to this old guy, man, that he was always, like, helping out, and he would always read the Bible with me and all this stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then the coolest thing is that I got from there is before I left, one of the guys, they made me this ring.
What does it say?
It's the letters that I have from my gang. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
But they made it, so they basically use like cardboard.
Uh-huh.
And like, from the shirts, they'll take off the thread and then they'll dye it and then they'll make it. Uh-huh. And then the idea that they were up at like 2 a.m. to be like, every single be like, hey man, you know, be good. You have so much potential and all these things.
They made that for you.
And they made that for me. It's like the thing that I treasure the most.
Really?
It's just like, it's a lot to me because what it says to me now, and when I go and talk to people, it's like, it shows you that even people that are like murderers, whatever, like drug dealers, gang members, whatever, man, they still have a heart. They still have potential to be good. They still have, you know what I mean? Don't just because people make them, oh, this is what you are. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't mean that's all there is.
You don't even see those letters anymore. It's just the meaning behind it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You know what I mean? So I leave that and I'm out, and my mind was like, I can't hang around with these people. So my friend that stayed behind, that guy was like, to me at the time, that was like my blood brother. That was it. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to like leave all this behind and leave him there. It's like, I want to save him. I want to, you know, him to have a better life. I want God to be, you know, help him out, all these things.
That's the one that did 10 years?
No. This is another one.
Okay.
So the one that did 10 years is a different. The one that stayed behind.
Oh,
is the
okay.
guy. That's the guy that was like, that was my guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, you know, so I went, when he called me and everything, and I told him, yeah, man, I can't be around this no more than that. So he took it to like offense. It's like, oh, this is whatever. You know what I mean? So I stopped talking to him for like maybe like a month or something because he felt that I just don't want him, period. But, you know what I mean? Whatever.
Yeah.
And at the time, you know, God was already working on me and doing all these things. You know what I mean? Where I was like, I went to a church with my parents. And then like after like a year or whatever, I became a youth leader there.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, God, that's one of God's callings for me. So I was the youth leader there. You know what I mean? I was helping, you know, with the kids. And it grew from like 2 kids to like 30.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, God was doing things, you know, and more because they saw me and they're like, oh, this guy is like us or something like us.
Mm-hmm.
And you can be like this too. And I was like, yeah. I mean, you don't have to, because especially, again, it goes to the same thing. Latino and Spanish churches, they're very religion.
Yeah.
They're like, you have to dress this way. You have to be this way. You can't, you know. And I was like, I would always have that battle with some people. And I was like, yeah, you got to dress like this. Or you're going to be a leader in this. It's like, no, you don't. It's like, God sees your heart and, you know, the wisdom that you're giving people and other stuff. He doesn't care about your looks.
Hey, as a youth leader, what kind of things did you teach biblically to the youth?
So I would teach them regular stuff like the story of Job. You know what I mean? Like stories of faith and the struggles that you would deal with at the time and how it's okay, you know, to be better, to let God take control, especially with, you know, with anything in your life, which is what I was learning at the time. I was very young at the time when I took that role, you know what I mean? And I was like, but I knew God had a meaning for it and everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what can I say? It was a lot of stuff like that. And at the same time, I'm learning. And what I was learning is like I would tell them. I remember it came to a point where I was already doing classes there and everything. And I met this girl there. And I met her. She was cool and everything. And I think like 2 weeks in or something, 3 weeks in or whatever, I had talked to her. At the time before this, when I left prison and everything, and I gave my life to God, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to look for like girlfriends anymore. I'm just going to let God bring me the one that is meant for me.
Yeah.
You know, I always believed that even as a kid. Like, I always believed that's the way it should be. And I waited, and it was like 2 years later. And my dad would always say, like, oh, if you do, you just make sure you get a Mexican woman because, you know, they work hard and they do this. And I was like, oh, whatever. You know?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't care. I was like, as long as they have my sense of humor. And
How old were you when that happened? Knowing your dad said that to you.
oh, I was like 23, 24. Really?
Did you say, Dad, show me in the Bible where it says that?
Yeah, no, well, you know, it's just like, you know, because my dad is very, like, Latinos are better.
God.
You know?
Yep.
And I was like, no. I was like, I know what God says, and, you know, I'm waiting for the woman that God has meant for me. And the only thing I ask is, like, you know, she's light-skinned because I like that. I was like, there's nothing wrong with that. And since a little kid, I always wanted twins. Always wanted twins.
Uh-huh.
I was always like, I'm going to have kids. I'm going to have twins.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's all I cared about. So 2 years and just waiting. And then she came in, and then I was just like, again, the beautiful thing is like even the way God talks about it, how from friends it turns into this. So it was a good friendship and everything. And I remember we were working on some kind of posters for the church, and God was like, "This is her." And I was like, I felt like a kid in high school, and I was like, I gotta go. And I'm driving home. I was like, "Are you for real? Are you for real?" I was like, "Cause I don't want to make a mistake, God." I was like, "Are you for real? Because I've been waiting 2 years. I don't know."
Yeah.
So that happens, and then the next day. That was on a Saturday night, and then the next day she's like, "Oh, I'll see you at church." But she's like, when I went to church, she was like, "My sister's coming," and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. You're a month in, and your sister's finally coming with her family." And then when she comes in, it's like she's a twin, and she was supposed to be a triplet. And then like both sides of her family are like twins everywhere. So then God was more like, "See, this is what it is." So I was like, "Oh man, that's amazing, right?" And you move 6 years, and everything was great. 6 years passed. I was with her, I was like, I got engaged, did the whole thing. And like a month before the wedding, I was like, maybe 2 months, 3 months before, I was already like, oh, I don't feel good, like my back, and I was sleeping a lot. And I was having all these weird pains that I never had all these other years. And I would sleep a lot and everything, and I ended up going to doctors, and the doctors were like, "Yeah, well, your back is this," and they're telling me more or less what it is that the problems are.
Because of the cerebral palsy?
And the other stuff.
Yeah.
And a month before the wedding, not even like 2 weeks, we sat, and she was like, "I know with you, I'll have security and everything that I need, but with your situation, it's not enough." That broke me.
Wow.
That shattered me.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And that's when my depression came in. And I say that to people. It's like, it is crazy how we know how amazing and great God is and what he can do.
Yeah.
But human nature sometimes is like, it's easy to be like, oh, and get down so fast. You know what I mean? And that's like, it's sad. Like, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that happened, and I'm just like not doing anything, whatever. So I was like, what's the point of anything? Again, I go, that one thing that I was like, okay, well, God's in my life, and this is the one positive thing that I'm getting. It's all gone. So what's the point of anything, right?
Man.
And at this time, it's when I was like really like super heavy, like insanely heavy. And I don't know if I showed you this.
Holy moly.
No, that's not even the biggest that I got. Okay.
Man, that don't even look like you, bro.
Oh, no, wait. You see?
That's you right there, too?
That's me. No, this is the biggest I'll be right here. Watch. This right here. That's just huge.
Wow, it doesn't even look like you,
Yeah,
bro.
but that's me, right?
And that was before
She told me all this stuff, and I was already trying to lose weight for the wedding, whatever. And then I was already having issues, and then so that happened. I got like super depressed. I was eating nothing, and then I was going to doctors because more pains were coming in.
Yeah.
And that's when they started to give me like pain meds.
Oh, okay.
So this is when this kicks in.
They giving you hard stuff?
Huh?
What kind of, are they giving you really hard narcotics?
No, I mean, at the beginning, it wasn't like that crazy because this is a span of 10 years right here. That's kind of what I'm going to tell you with all these things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it started, all right, like, probably like your basic, I couldn't tell you right now what it was, you know what I mean? But it was your basic entry level pain meds probably. You know what I mean? That plus like, again, being depressed, I got like really unhealthy.
Yeah, you can't be that big and drop that fast.
But you could tell though on the skin and just everything, you can tell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That it's just it's not healthy. And I was still not healthy. And I was feeling a little better because all this weight is gone.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, the same. And I remember at the time I was like, okay. And my brother had moved back, to Arizona. And he was like, he's a professional bodybuilder. So he was just like good. And he's doing all these things and he knows how to eat. So he was like, oh man, let's just go to the gym. And that's how you'll take away this depression. And I was like, you know what? I was like, screw it. Let's go. Let's do it. And his answer to me, because I was like, if God took this away from me and it was mine, it was supposed to be for me. What do I do now? And my brother's answer was like, nah, man, you just got to go out there and screw. You know what I mean? You'll get over it.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe, because you're still stupid. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, I'm going to go. I'm going to do this. And that's when I was getting in shape. You know what I mean? And it's like with my brother, it is so horrible 3 months of working out and eating.
Uh-huh.
But if you do it right, if it is like insane, horrible.
Oh,
Wow.
dang.
And he was like,
Started getting into it?
yeah. And I was like, okay, this is it. And I was still feeling some back problems and everything.
Yeah.
But I was like, setting this,
And did it help your depression?
It did to some
Or
extent.
did it like mask it a little bit?
No, yeah, that's what I say. It's probably more of a mask. You know what I mean? Because I was still like, I didn't deal with the issue
Mm-hmm.
with her and all that and what she said.
Mhm.
I basically just put it out.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I did. I honestly never dealt with it till maybe like 2 weeks ago,
Wow.
which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a crazy thing. You know what I mean? So I was just doing this, and I'll tell you a funny story with all this. So I was like, you know what? Maybe he's right, and I'll go date, and I'll do, you know, because I had a friend at the time that was staying with me, and he was like, oh, I'm like on this freaking dating app, and I was like, oh, let's see,
Yeah.
right? And I went on there, and I laugh because I think it's funny how women always say like, oh, guys are so nasty and perverted and this and that, and it's true. Right. But at the time, like when I went in there, like these women were telling me like what they're going to do. And I was like, oh my God, I never knew this side
Yeah.
of any of that. You know what I mean? I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I went on a date with one of them. And the funny thing is, we went to eat and everything. And she's like, oh, let me drive around. Let me drive you around. I was like, okay, whatever. So at the end, I was like, yeah, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't know. Let's just, we go talk or, play some mini golf or whatever I was telling her.
Yeah.
She's like, no. And she's like, let's go to this park and just talk. And I was like, okay. So she takes me to this park. She knows what she's doing. She takes me to this park. It's like really like secluded, like in the dark over there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And I'm just talking and everything. And at the same time, like my principles have always been like very gentleman. I've always been that person.
Mm-hmm.
And she was basically, insinuating, let's do something. And she was like, oh, my friends are sending me these dirty things because, they're crazy. And I'm like, oh, that's funny. And then at the end of the time, she's just like, so what's up with you then? Are you gay or something? And I started laughing.
Oh, because you weren't doing anything?
I just started laughing. I was like, the idea alone that you go and your number one thought is like, are you gay or something? Instead of like, man, this is a gentleman. This
Mhm.
is somebody that is
That's
respecting
crazy.
me. And once I said that, she's like, oh, no, I'm so sorry. I was like, well, there's no point anymore.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, it's just, that's what it is. You know what I mean? And that was just like the funniest thing to me that I always like to talk about that because I was like, sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is true, especially from someone that has in the past tried dating apps and stuff. Gentlemen are hard to come by, and it's crazy because we like women expect now to not get a gentleman, and that's reverse. Like we should
Yeah.
be setting the bar as nothing less than gentlemen and even raise it a little bit and be a godly gentleman, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
And I mean, how do you expect, like, really, when you think about it now, I mean, and back before the internet, it's like you had to meet someone and have a conversation with them and become friends with them. And now it's like people kind of have this, like, this understanding of what a dating app is. It's like, oh, it's easy.
Yeah.
We ain't got to really do much. Let's just be friends
Right?
with
Yeah.
benefits.
I
You
like
know what
you.
I mean?
you don't have to knock on the door and
Yeah.
potentially meet a parent
Yeah.
or
Everything is.
Meet me outside.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right?
It's true. I mean,
Right?
it's crazy.
I used to do it on social media because I had over 29,000 followers, and I called it Vance Harmony because guess what people did?
Vance Harmony?
Yes. People used to always just want to go on a date, just meet me on social media. So it wasn't
Vance
until
Madison?
Yeah.
This is before I got saved. When I started reading the Bible and I saw that you can't have sex outside of marriage, I repented, and I even went on that social media page and said, I'm closing this page down because I'm actually being a sinner and I'm a child of the devil.
Right?
Yep.
And
On
know what's-
VanceHarmony.com.
You know what's
could
crazy
meet-
when you say that, though? It's crazy is because at the time, too, after that interaction,
Vance, that's funny.
I had other ones that I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do it. Right? But at the same time, God would not let me do it. God would give me all this, like, no. And I would be kind of mad. Because I'd be like, God, you took this away. But then you don't let me do this. I was like, you make me feel like I'm in the middle. And you say you hate the middle. You're like, it's like vomit to you.
Yeah.
And I was like, so it's like, I don't understand. And I was like, help me understand. You know what I mean? But it was just like, God's like, I have, like, basically what God was saying is like, I have something better for you. That's what it is.
I like that because that's biblical too, because scripture does say, well, I forgot who it was that said it, but he said, God, help me with my unbelief.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So then I was like, and I just gave up on that. And I'm like, I'm just going to focus on lifting and this and that. So I got into like powerlifting, which is like, I got bigger
Dang,
And that's
bro.
the same for somebody with cerebral palsy, man.
More impressed by the sideburns.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I went from that to like even like which I like. I show these just because I go.
That's good though.
Somebody like me should not be able really to do this.
Yeah.
And those are the things that I say. But when you want something and you give it to God, and again, your brain is a muscle, you can train it. You know
I
what I mean?
like that. You can train it.
So it's like I was doing those things, but then like the pain and my first surgery came in.
Oh wow.
My first back surgery came in, and after that, I've had like over 25 surgeries.
I've had 27.
Oh man,
Dang.
yeah, I got like 3 more coming up.
That's crazy.
So
So after one, it was just like constant.
yes, it was like one, and then like every couple months is different back, ankle, things like that, and
Is that just caused by like the cerebral palsy? Just
yeah, it's just so like I'll tell you, like my back is because you're depending on who it is. Like I am one of those rare people that actually can be self-sufficient.
yeah.
Be like walking, like you see, like I'm like walking with a cane, but like you see anybody that have a walker or something,
Yeah.
or they don't, they're in a chair. You know what I mean? But I've always pushed myself to not be that person. I know eventually I have to be that, and that's fine. I just, as long as I can hold that,
Yeah.
I'm willing to work for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And do you? But like, I'm just curious. Like, do you believe that you have to do that at one point? You do have.
I do. I see my body from just alone 3 years ago, bro, and it's like
Yeah.
it's not the same. Yeah, I mean, I get it, but I'm okay with it now. Like before,
You've accepted.
yeah, like
that
before
this
when
could
we
be-
used to go to, because we used to go to Disneyland every year growing up,
Uh-huh.
and I would struggle, but I was always like, no, and I would push myself, and I would get angry. I'm gonna walk the whole way through, and I'm gonna walk everywhere. At the night, I would have blisters and everything on my feet, and I would barely walk the next day. But I was like, I don't care.
Mhm.
That's just the mentality I had as a kid.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, you guys are all walking. Why do I have to be in the chair?
Mhm.
You know, like they would just make me angry. Be like, just get a chair. And my mom's like, come on. I was like, no, stop it.
Now I'm like fast pass. Let's get to the front of the line.
Now I'm the one that's like, yes, I have this and this. What do I get?
Oh man. All right. So you said that you started having all of these like different surgeries.
Yeah,
and
so
stuff.
the first one was a back surgery, and that's when, again, more meds came in.
Oh wow.
Serious surgeries. So, like, my thing is I came into here for different circumstances, not because so much that I liked to get high with the drugs and everything.
Uh-huh.
It's just that because I needed it, and 10 years, and so many surgeries. And I remember my first surgery on this foot,
Uh-huh.
my right foot. So the joint that goes this way was so bad with like cartilage and like the arthritis in it, they had to remove it.
Okay.
And then they had to, because of that, they had to extend my tendon, which is that's why I have the staples right there,
Oh wow.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that pain right there, it's the worst pain I've ever had in my life.
Removing the tendon.
No, like they had to stretch it. So my tendons,
Ooh.
as cerebral palsy, your tendons are already like this because you have cerebral palsy.
Okay.
That's why they're always like this or like this, because the tendons are just so tight, right? So my legs were like that, and then getting it tighter is like the pain alone woke me up off of the thing.
Wow.
And I was just screaming and everything, and my mom and my little buddy was there, and they were just like, I don't know what to do. They had to put me out again
Oh my God.
because it was that bad. And even when I went home, if it was just like a barely little twitch, I couldn't handle it because it was so stretched out. It was like insane.
So how many surgeries were we at when you came to ARC? How many had you gone through at that point?
Probably, I was already there like at 20.
At like 20?
Yeah.
Wow. And so now that you've got 25, I think if you
Yeah.
you and Vance both said numbers and you lost
You
me
got
there.
27.
Yeah.
I got you.
But do you do them without medication now, or
No,
is it
no.
okay?
So, no, I don't, because I learned for me. I get why people, and when I remember when I was still talking to some people here, they were like, oh, you're going to get meds? I was like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, aren't you afraid? I was like, nah, man. I was like, because I gave that to God, and God took care of that. Once you give those things to God and you really do it, it's like God even tells you, you don't come back to it. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, and I'm confident. It's like God's taking care of these things. You don't go back. If you go back to anything that you give to God, it's because you didn't really give it to God.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Man. So like I remember you saying I think it was, were you the one that told me that the medications that they started giving you were so powerful that you were even taking one that like they give cancer patients, right?
Yeah, that's where I was going. So the funny thing is, like with this surgery, the first foot surgery, I had the screw through the heel to make the thing, and then another one. And then when I went to therapy, physical therapy, and I came out of it, and I was like, oh, that's some fury. And I went to the doctor, like my screw broke. You see it right there.
Oh.
Yeah, so it broke. Like
those are some big screws.
I had a complete ankle replacement. Yeah. Okay.
So it broke, and I was like, yeah, and I had to.
Oh, you only have 2 screws? I got 14.
No, yeah, well, that's the first one, man.
Okay.
Wait.
I got 14 screws all the way up here.
If we could bring the X-ray machine in here, we're gonna count all the screws.
Yeah. I had the second one.
Some competitors in our.
I know. I had a whole foot reconstruction like 2 years ago. Now it's got like, I think the same. Like, no, I have like 11 screws in this.
Mine happened playing against the Seattle Seahawks, and they had to put me under on the football field like they did that other young man, but he actually fell out. They had to put me under.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'll tell you a good story how I had to get mine. I mean, I think it's pretty good. Anyways, so I had to get that. I had to get an emergency surgery again because of that. And they were like, oh, and so then they had to do the other one, and they had to, here at the heel, they had to take out bone.
Yeah.
Because at the bottom of my foot, because of the way my feet are, it wasn't healing right. So I had to take off bone from somewhere else to put it there.
Oh, man.
That reminds me of mine, but mine goes all the way up to here.
That's
right?
crazy.
Wow.
And then, so I had that, and then they couldn't, oh man, I took it off. They couldn't take off that little half that was left. So I have 2 screws in a half because they could never take that half off.
Oh.
They were like, we can't move it because, you know, you might have to do more, and it would actually might be worse than it is good for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and then I had, like, as the time went, I had surgeries where, like, they had to file down my bones because, like, the way that it was doing. So it was always small tweaks, but then bigger things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To the surgeries. And then I had, like, many on my back. I had to get these wires connected to the nerves in my spine. So I had all these wires on my back.
Man.
They go through my spine, like, in every single thing through the vertebrae. And I have, like, this big battery that just kicks it on my right side. And it's like, to me, it's like, you see how much, side note, you know, how much they screw you, because this battery has been on for 4 years straight and it hasn't turned off. But then your batteries on your phones are like, it's dead in 8 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know what I mean?
We got a solar panel somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, so it's kind of like, you're like, oh, okay, you know, whatever. But at this time, so when I had all the surgery in the second one, I was very depressed. That's when they were giving me, I think that's when they were giving me oxycodone already. I was taking that and like morphine at the time.
Wow.
At the same time. And I was just very depressed, and I would not leave my room. And the sad thing is, when you have good income and depression, you go nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you do nothing. And I remember at the time I was drawing, and this is the only painting that I've ever made. And people are like, oh, you should paint another one. And I was like, I feel like it takes away the meaning of this painting for me. So I was like, I sat there and I painted this.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like, trying to put myself back together. You know what I mean?
That's beautiful. I like that.
You know, and I was trying to really put that paint in the eyes and stuff. And that's when, I mean, you know, you fast forward, and it got to a point where, again, honestly, if I had like, I like to put my feelings to the drawings. You know what I mean? And it's like, if I had a gun at the time, I wouldn't be here. I really wouldn't be here.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because that's how I really felt. You know, and because it was to the point where you're like 8 years, 9 years in, and you're taking the strongest oxys, strongest morphines. There was some other things, and I was taking all these muscle relaxers. So it's like I tell people, like, I really feel like it kills your soul. Like, it really does.
Yeah.
It really does. It makes you like so blah. You know what I mean? Like, you don't care about anything, like your mind, your heart.
Yeah.
And it's like they were giving me this stuff called Subsys. Have you heard of that? So Subsys is, I had to go to this freaking pharmacy, like freaking far past Desert Ridge, like 30 minutes past that way.
Wow.
Every like 40 minutes, and it's like in the middle of nowhere. And it's like they look like these little like small syringes. It's like this, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And you put it under your tongue, and it's like a little spray. And then like not even a minute later, it's like pain free for like 4 hours, 5 hours. But the thing is like I don't even know how. My doctor was like, "Oh, you can qualify for this. Is they give this to cancer patients when they're close to the end."
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, the doctor was like, "No, yes, you qualify for it."
That's crazy, dude.
So I was taking this, plus the strongest oxy, the strongest morphine, like all these muscle relaxers, everything at the same time.
Wow.
So the last 4 years was all this, and it got to the point where the last year it wasn't even lasting a week because my body's just so like it's so addicted to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Become dependent on all
So
of those.
dependent, like insanely dependent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of like we got to a point where it was nothing. I was doing nothing, and one of the last straws for me was my niece and nephew, because I remember they were like the next day they were like, "Oh my God, Uncle, this was great. Sasa, we had so much fun yesterday," and I don't remember nothing.
Wow.
But they were like, "You were having fun, you were laughing, you were talking."
Mm-hmm.
I remember nothing, and to
Man.
me it was like, "What am I doing?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And take it that I get at the same time the addiction was causing problems with my family.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause, I mean, it's, obvious, like all this stuff in that week, it's insane.
Yeah.
You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So then I would draw like stuff like this and things where, it tells you, like it tells.
Intelligence without ambition is a bird without wings.
Yeah. I mean, so I would draw, like I drew a heart where it's like, there's nothing pumping through it. So it's dead,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's when I basically just decided to be like, I'm going to go, you know what I mean? Because it came to the point where like, they were like, you can't be here. And I really felt like I just didn't want to live because everything was just going bad.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my brother saw that. And my brother was like, he's like, we sat alone and he was like, dude, I know what you're doing. I know you don't care. I know you don't want to live. He said, you just can't do that with your parents, with parents around. He's like, you look at them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I got to the point where I was like, it's true, I should just go sunset and do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Even though, like I say, we're so stupid because we know the answer. We know what can fix all this, but we're stupid at the time. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I called, and then I called so many rehab places. And all of them, they're like, no. And this was the only one. And they were like, oh, we're in Tucson though. And I was like, you know what? I don't care. Like, oh, we'll go pick you up too. I was like, even better.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
And then I came here. Now it's like at the time I had like all these dreads, fat dreads, and this long beard.
Yeah.
Right? And then I just came here, and I remember coming here. I was just gonna come here for detox.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's all I need. I was like, I feel like mentally I might be okay, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I can, let God work on me again, whatever. And that was the only thing that I was coming here for detox. I came here, and when I was in detox, I forgot who it was, but she was telling me like, it's like, you should think about going to the other side. Is like because they have therapists. Yeah, and I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All my life I always wanted to go to a therapist, but I never
Yeah.
went to or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling her, and I was like, hey, if I go over and I talk to her, whatever, and it doesn't work for me, I can leave though, right? And she's like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool. So I went over, and this is when I met Stephanie. You know what I mean? And I talked to her, and I told her like everything that I'm basically telling you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, that's interesting. She was like, you know what? She's like, you don't need to do every step that you have to do for this, because I don't feel like everything applies to you. She's like, but you do have to do these like couple ones. She's like, but this main one that I want you to do is your goodbye letter. And I was like, okay. Yeah. I was like, it sounds easy. Yeah. Sounds cool. So I went home. I went to the room. I sat there, and as soon as I sat there and I started writing it, just breaking down, like crying. Because I was like, how can I say goodbye to something that I use to make me feel normal?
And for those who don't know, the goodbye letter is a letter you write out to the substance, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
To whatever it is that brought you here, to let it go and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So that's what I was writing. Is like, how can I say goodbye to something that helps me be like you, helps me be productive.
Yeah.
And I know that if I stop taking, I might be bedridden. And so I was just like bawling because I was like, I got all these fears
Yeah.
were coming in, and I was like, but I remember, and I was praying in the middle of this, and I was like, but you know what? And I wrote it on there. And I was like, I know that I have a God of strength, a God of power, a God that is my foundation. It's like, all I got to do is take that first step and he will guide me the rest.
It's interesting you said that because you mentioned the death of the soul, but actually the Bible says the soul does not die. It says, for we will all appear before the judgment seat after your body dies, and you will be judged for what you did when you were in the body. You'll be inheriting the kingdom of God or cast into hell. There's only two places we go to. So the soul does not die.
Well, but I said, it feels like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was just going.
No, I love it. I love that you're putting that out there. That's awesome.
And by the way, I understand.
Yeah.
And that's scriptural too. You know what it says? We don't walk by feelings.
Exactly.
So thank you for validating that too.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Yes.
So
good job, man.
yeah, thank you, man. Same. I love, so I'm talking and doing that and writing the letter. I remember when I did it, you know how you have your little groups. And I was like, I told her, I was like, I can't read it. I was like, if I read, I won't even finish this letter. He started to read it, for me. And that's like the first time, like God's done so many things with me and through me for people. And I always said, oh, God wanted me to preacher. What God wanted me to be this kind of person. It wasn't until I got here that God said, this is what you're supposed to do. Because I remember when she read it and everybody in the room was like, you put life into a different perspective with the way because you're here, because you had to be here. But we're here because we want to be here.
Yeah.
They were like, it makes me feel stupid. They were, some of them were saying that. It makes me feel like I need to grow up or whatever. And that's when God was like, this is it.
Wow.
All right. And I went home. I keep saying home to the room because it felt like a home.
Yeah.
It really did. Because I had that one room by myself,
Yeah.
Thanks, handicap.
Yeah. God was using it towards your advantage. It changed.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's that. And then I remember going there and I was like, oh man, that's freaking awesome. And I was so excited and, full of the spirit. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I remember like the next day I was in there because I was talking to her about like the painting in her room because she would put these little wooden things with people would write. Everybody that came through her room, they would write whatever message, whatever.
Yeah.
And she would put it on the wall. And I would always go in there. I was like, it'd be cool if you drew a tree. And then all those little things would make the leaves. And as the more you get, the more, it'll be fuller. She's like, oh, that's cool. She's like, I'm going to have to go to a hobby. I was like, it'd be cool. I kept saying, I was like, I could do that for you. She's like, are you a good artist? I was like, yeah. Like nobody knew at the time that I could draw or anything here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, like I can do that. And she's like, okay. And she's straight up, like just because we hit it off really good, like right away. And it just became into a great friendship, me and her. And she was like, yeah, I completely trust you. And I was like, okay. So I started doing the drawing. I did it with chalk first just so she could see what I was going to do.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I remember people would come in because she had the door open and people would be like, what is he doing? Like in there. And she's like, oh, he's going to paint on my wall.
Yeah.
And this and that. And then I remember one of the times, and God was already like pushing me to like, just, take those steps, those blind steps, the steps of faith, man. If you there's a door open, don't think about it, just go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, heck yeah, man. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Right. And I was doing this. And Jen came in and she was talking to her and they were like, I don't know what to do. We can't figure something out because the yoga instructor is like, she's sick or she's gone. So we have 2 hours to fill. Right. And then right away, a guy was just like, hey. And I was like, hey, I could do something. And then they were like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know, but I can do something if you want me to. And then Stephanie was like what? And I was like, well, I've never taught an art class, but maybe I could do that.
Oh, wow.
And then Jen was like, I remember that.
Yeah.
And she looked at like Stephanie, and Stephanie was like, I trust him. If he says he can do it, you do it. And I was like, okay. And they're like, okay, man, 2 hours tomorrow. And I was like,
a 2-hour class?
Like, well, because you know how it was like guys and the girls were separate.
Yeah, that was a way different residential.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because it was like different. Yeah, because it was like the guys and then the girls.
Yeah.
But then they were like, we're going to put them together. And I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they were like, well, what are you going to do? I was like, I have no idea. I was like, but I mean, just I feel like you just have to trust me.
Yeah.
I was like, but it's like, we'll see what God wants to do. And then Stephanie was like, okay, do it. Go ahead. So I went into the room and I'm like, what am I going to do? So I'm thinking all these things. Is like, I've never taught an art class. Ever.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, maybe I can make them draw something that it'll be from the outside in. And then they could see like, oh, always look at the big picture. Don't look at just one thing. So try to give a lesson through it. You know what I mean? And then it was like midnight and I'm still like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Right?
Yeah.
And then I just went and I was like, I'm going to go back to basics and that way I can teach them with my drawings to basics. That anybody can draw as long as you put effort into it. And at the same time, when you want to start something new and something different, like or whatever it is, you have to go to your basics away from what you know.
Yeah.
So you actually do something, So then I went and I went the next day and I was using this same tablet because I was like drawing it, and I was using it as the same thing. It's like, oh, who wants to come and draw like an egg or whatever? But at the beginning, I remember when I started it, I was like Jen was like, oh, he's gonna do this class, whatever. And then I was like, it's either gonna go really good or freaking horribly wrong. I was like, we'll find that together.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But I was like, it is what it is. And the class went really well. And that was the other one where God was like, this is you.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because I was just like, I'm just going to go, faith, poof, blind steps of faith.
Yeah, that's good, man.
You know what I mean?
So how long? And so you came through. We had an IOP program at the time too, right?
Yeah.
Did you go to the IOP program?
No. Because I remember I was going to leave sooner, and then everybody was like, don't leave, because people were talking to me, and I don't know if you remember, like Stephanie and the rest of the people, they were like, if he's out talking to somebody, leave them be. Because he's always trying to push people and be positive and all these things.
Yeah.
Because that's all I was doing. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like when you would walk around, it's like I would just sit there and like look at people because I would see and listen to them, and my heart was already big for people. But when I came here, it just freaking grew.
And pray with them and talk
Yes,
to them.
I was doing all those things with them. You know what I mean? And I had so many different amazing stories with other people.
Yeah.
That I remember for Christmas, I was gonna go home, but then they were like, no, you're gonna miss you and this and that. And I remember telling Stephanie, I was like, hey, could I leave and then come back? She's like, we don't really do that. You can't do that because of insurance and this and that. And I was like, okay, I was like, let me see. I was like, well, she's like, well, talk to your insurance and we'll see. And I was like, I was just praying the whole time. I was like, okay, God. It's like, I want to come back to help people and to show some of these people that they can trust in even a stranger sometimes when they say, I'll be back. They'll see that I do come back and I do, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I mean, whatever you want to do, God, it is up to you. Just, it is your will.
Yes, sir.
And I went and I talked to the insurance, and the insurance was like, they were like, yeah, well, we'll get back to you. Then the next day they got back to me, because this was 3 days before I was leaving. Then the next day they got back to me, and I was like, okay. They were like, the insurance was like, it's fine. We'll let this, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. And then I had to tell Stephanie, and then they have their meetings, and they were like, well, we have to see what they say. And then I remember that first day, they're like, no, we didn't have the meeting because there was all these things that happened somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh my God, maybe I'm not supposed to come
leave
back or whatever.
Yeah.
But then like the day before I was like, they were coming to pick me up, like Stephanie came and she was like, oh, she's like, we all talked about it and it's fine.
Wow, that's great.
Back. And I was like, wow. Right. So at this time, I think I had already finished the tree, and I left and I came back. And I remember at this time there was that guy that was drawing here, or was drawing stuff for people. And that guy left and took everybody's money or something. And it was Ray that they took his money to. Your uncle?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And I remember nobody knew I was drawing at the time. And I was like, I felt so bad for him because of the thing that he asked that guy to draw.
Yeah.
And he's like, and it was for his kid and this and that. And I was like, oh, dude. And I remember I told him, I was like, you know what, bro? It's like, I'm going to go home. I was like, but I'm going to draw you something. I was like, and hopefully you like it. And, and it does good for you and your kid. And I went home and I was getting all these things that I said, oh, I'm going to get these stuff for people and to show them that there's people that are strangers that still care, whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then I'll show you some of my work right now. And I have this thing where I tell you, I'm legally blind, right?
Okay.
Like I can't, without glasses or anything, I can't drive, do nothing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When I draw, this is how I feel comfortable. With glasses, I feel so off. But this is part of what gives me income. Mm-hmm. That's another one where I was like, God could do anything. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow. Just different things. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Wow.
Yeah, we're going to have to share these with you guys.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So
That's amazing, Ericko.
And so when you draw and you can't see as well, are you just trusting
in my head, that's why even when I go to the eye doctors, I tell them, they're like, yeah, well, this is what it is. But I was like, but I see this. And when I show them stuff like this, they're like, how do you? I was like, I see it. I was like, I do see it. Like, what I'm drawing is what I see, not what I think it looks like. I was like, I see the shades, I see this, I see the textures.
Yeah.
I was like, to me, it's like, what is it other than if it's not a miracle?
Yeah.
You know what I
Oh,
mean?
that's awesome.
I've gotten to a point where even like I went from like regular artwork, like on paper, pencil,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, to digital, because I mean, digital is like the way to go now, right?
Yeah.
But I'll show you.
So, Ericko, I have a question now. How many days, how long has it been now that you've been like clean and freed from that?
Ever since I left here, man, which was like what, 2019?
2019. Dang, ever since, huh?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing.
You mind if I give you another applause for that one, bro?
Thank you, man.
Yeah, that's good, man.
You know what I mean? Like I tell you, once you give it to God, man.
That's great.
Yeah. So I mean, it's amazing. You know, even when I had to get that big surgery, which was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I used it enough just for the main days, but it was easy for me to.
Just let go of it.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like I said,
It's all in the
give
brain.
it to God, and it's like that's number 2. That's what I tell people. It's like number 2. Number 1 is like giving it to God, let God take care of it, and then 2 is like, dude, your brain, you can train it to do whatever you want. I have these, which I love this one. I think you'll love that. That's my Bible, DNA, deeply rooted.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then at the same time, this one, I drew this before because I was always like, oh, you know, I know how the Bible talks about how the angels are, but at the time I would draw this, I'd be like, I think angels would have blindfolds because they walk by faith. They don't
Wow.
walk by looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's always something that, like, those are the things that I would draw back then, even when I was in prison, you know? And that's what they're like, why? And I was like, oh, that just makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, that's really cool. You
That's
know?
great, man.
Yeah.
So I remember when I left here,
Uh-huh.
and that's when Stephanie was like, come here every like month and speak, you know, because I remember after I did the class thing, the drawing class, the next day Stephanie was like, hey, I would like for you, before you leave, to speak of your life.
Okay.
And I didn't know that she was bringing like everybody into that room.
Wow.
Everybody she'd bring like everybody. And then she was like, you know, told me to speak on like, you know, like a condensed from what I'm talking today, but more condensed about like all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, I did. And then that's when even God was like, this is your job. This is what you're supposed to do with everything else. And I remember I left, and then Stephanie's like, I want you to come every month. And I was like, okay. And I was like, give me a little bit so I can figure things out and maybe get in some kind of shape. And I go, so I can build this keynote
Yeah.
too. And I remember through the 2 months, and I was like, man, this is good. And this is when I was doing these drawings, and I was crying, like I told you guys. And I was like, oh, this is really still hitting me.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, there's something missing. There's something missing to this thing.
Uh-huh.
And I remember my brother came like a week before. He's like, hey, next weekend, I'm going to take the kids to do this mud run, this 5K mud run. And I was like, and God was like, that's it to me. And I was like, what? I've never done anything like this. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay. I was like, but if God's telling me to do it, who am I to go against it?
And mud run is like a competition?
So it's like, yeah, so it's like a 5K where you're basically just going and then you do all these obstacle courses.
Okay.
And the story behind this, I love it. I love this because he says, like, there's no doubt that this is God working.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Because I'm like, okay. And then I'm like off meds. This is 2 months off. So my body's still trying to
Adjust.
figure everything out. And I'm like, well, I'm afraid to do things because it's like my back and I have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, ooh, if God's telling me to do this, who am I to go against it? And this is where tests come in because it really shows how faithful you're going to be, how much like will strength and all these things you're going to have really for what you want to do. You know what I mean? So Monday comes by and I'm like, that's okay, we're good. And then Tuesday came by, my back started to hurt. And I was like, You know, I'm in like no shape whatsoever to even do a 5K. Dude. I've never run. Like I used to run when I was in high school, and that's barely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's it. So that's happening, and I'm like, Wednesday comes in, my right ankle is killing me. My back is killing me. Thursday, Friday is like the worst. Friday, because it was on a Saturday. Friday, my brother comes at night, and he's like, he saw me. He saw I was in horrible shape. And he was like, yo, he's like, tell me if you're really going to do this, because this is like 2 hours away. He's like, I'm not going to wake up super early for nothing. So that was my out if I wanted it. But I was like, no. You know, I was like, no, God. You know, I was like, no, we're going to do it. And I was just praying the whole night. I was like, okay, God. I was like, I am so giving it to you. And I was like, you know what you're doing. And the next day we're driving out there. I'm like, still like just praying and praying and praying. I'm just like, all right, God. I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. And all I was praying in my head was like, I do not care if I don't finish. As long as my body gives up. That I'm fine with that. I can live with that. But do not let my heart or my mind give up.
Did you finish?
Yeah, let me tell you.
Man, I could imagine the pain your body was.
Oh no, I have this picture. That's a body broken right there. There was one part where it was like, I think it's in this. Yeah, where it's like really heavy, thick mud.
Uh-huh.
Right? And you need your back and your legs to do this. I don't have either one. Right? But what's funny is like, I don't know if you saw when I'm jumping, they give you a number.
Mm-hmm.
And my niece was like, 911, 911. And they're like, we need to call it. That was my number. Like that funny thing the guy would give me.
Oh,
like,
really? That was the number?
You know, I have the picture when I'm jumping, you see the number 911.
That's cool.
Right? So this part right here with the heavy mud is like I had to figure out this way because I couldn't move. And my brother, when I was going to jump down, my brother was like, don't do it. He's like, this is insane.
Yeah.
But I was like, how can I say I did this if I don't do all of it?
Wow, man.
Right? So I went in there and that really just drained my body. My lips were white. And I felt like I'm done. I had to figure out this way to kind of do like little crunches to move so slow. But once I got out of that, I was like, I think that's it. I think I'm...
That took me to 1 Timothy 4:8. It says, for physical training is of some good, but godliness is of value for all things.
Amen, bro.
And holds the promise to both the present life and the life to come.
Amen. See, that's it. So see, those are the ones where I'm like, I was just stuck there because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And the story is my shoes. I work because I have my feet.
Mm-hmm.
I wore Chuck Taylors. Halfway through the thing, they cracked open. I had rocks inside my feet.
Oh my God.
But I still kept going.
That's great, man.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, this is it.
Is that the last picture?
That's the last
We got to share that one,
You know
man.
what I mean? This is like it. And I tell people, a 5K is what, like 3-point-something miles. They're like, oh, did you finish? Yeah. And the thing is like every 20 minutes or something, they would send another group. It took me 3 hours.
Wow.
That's what I tell people. The 3 hours is not what matters. It's that I started and I finished.
Absolutely.
I was like, and my goal is the next time I go, it's going to be under 3 hours. That's it. I don't care if it's a minute before. The point is that I'm going to do, even if that a minute before, it's still a better thing than I did before.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's like, and that's the state of mind that you need to have for anything that you do.
Absolutely. Wow, that's a powerful story, man.
So, I mean, and then, and that's, it goes through that. And then, I mean, you still learn, like I said, through the years. Last 3 years, I've learned so much, like even to value true friendships. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even when, like they say, people come for a season, you still value what they teach you or what you teach them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like at the same time, like the last things I could tell you is you get from people from some far away. Like I have 2 friends
Mm-hmm.
that are from Scotland. And these ladies have become like the closest thing to me.
That's great.
You know what I mean? That it's like, one of them is like, she showed me like what a true friend can be. And like, it's like, she's behind you not all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one, she has a daughter that has what I have.
Oh, wow.
And she understood me. And this is the first person that understood my thinking and certain things that nobody else could get.
Wow.
And then just the friendship alone with her, it was like on another level. You know what I mean? And it's like you don't know where help or anything is going to come from. They're like across the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like the closest thing is like if I see Buddha here and I'm like, dude, that's my brother. You know what I mean?
Man, it's amazing the people that God puts in your life too, bro.
Totally. You know what I mean?
amazing.
It's kind of like you gotta look at those blessings and look at it, you know what I mean? And see like, I could do anything, like I said.
Yeah.
As long as you just take those steps, you know what I mean? Blind faith.
Man. No, that's an incredible story, bro. So, my last question for you, man, it would be for anyone out there who's lost or feels like they can't continue with their life. What advice would you give to them?
I will say somebody's opinion of you does not define you. Your disability, your addiction, whatever it is, does not define you. Your past does not define you.
Your hurt, your habit, or your hang up.
Anything. Anything that is a negative thing does not define you. I mean,
Man.
there is hope out there. If God can do these things with this broken body, what can he not do with you?
Amen.
Very powerful. Well, thank you for coming and driving a long way and coming to share your testimony with us.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Story of never giving up, man. And remember, your brain is a muscle, ladies and gentlemen. You can do whatever you put your mind to as long as you keep God first.
Exactly. Thank you.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up to our homeboy, Ericko. Thank you, Ericko, so much for stopping by, brother. I really, really appreciate it, man. Everyone else who's out there, go ahead and make sure you check out the Instagram and all of these things. We're gonna be posting some of the pictures that he had of the Tough Mudder competition. What was it called?
It's like Mulligan Mud Runners?
Mulligan Mud Runners. We're going to be posting pictures so you guys can check out some of his amazing artwork too. Ericko, thank you so much, brother. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
To everyone else out there, we hope you have an amazing day. Thank you for listening to another episode of the ARCast. Much love. God bless you guys, and we will see you next week. Peace. What's going on, everybody? This is Buddha from the ARCast, and I just wanted to thank you for checking out this week's episode. It means a lot, and if you could share it with a friend or a loved one, somebody in need in recovery, or maybe somebody who just needs that little bit of extra positivity in their life, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you would like to join us here on the ARCast, either in the studio live or online, hit us up. The links are down in the show notes of this episode, and on there, you can find direct links to our main website here at Americas Rehab Campus and all of our social media platforms. Follow us. We keep the posts positive and motivational, focused on recovery, health, and wellness. As you know, in this modern day and age, we need as much love as possible, y'all. And as always, if you or somebody you know is in need of substance abuse treatment, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We're open 24 hours a day, and our direct phone number is 1-833-272-7342. Once again, that phone number is 1-833-272-7342. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. Much love and God bless. Peace.